Hi Yogi, and welcome to another Slow Flow with me, Oceana. In this particular episode, we are exploring the fourth and final foundation of mindfulness as taught by the Buddha. So, of course, if you haven't seen the 3 previous weeks, then I do highly encourage you to seek them out here on the channel because they do just give a little bit more context for what we'll be doing here. The class, as before, will be a yang to yin sequence. That means that the yang postures are very much a lot of standing and balancing poses that are fiery and challenging. Don't get too frustrated if something is too difficult for you. It's intended to be that way. And at the end of class, we will be moving into the yin postures, which are much more floor-based. We will hold those for longer periods of time, and we're working into the deeper tissues of the body. So as I've mentioned before, those postures can be challenging in a very different way for some of us. For the yin poses, you will want and need at least 1 yoga brick. If you have 2, even better. If you have no yoga bricks, I will link a video here for you that will show you how to easily substitute or replace them with stuff you have at home. And of course, the 4th foundation is Dhammasati, which talks very much about the hindrances, the stuff that's kind of holding us back from, more generally living our best life, as people maybe still say. I'm not sure because I'm old. But, of course, in a Buddhist context, we would say what is holding us back from really exploring our meditation practice and sort of exploring sort of the deeper aspects of life and our spirituality and our existence. So hopefully you will enjoy my sort of take on this. And when you're ready, we'll be starting in a child's pose in the center of our yoga mat. So join me there. Once you arrive, just give yourself a moment to set up your child's pose. Take the knees as wide as is comfortable. Walk the hands forward, and if you can rest the forehead, great. If that's not comfortable and it puts too much strain on either the back of the neck or too much pressure in the front of the face, then you can, of course, bend the elbows and stack either the hands or fists on top of one another to support the head. And if you have brought some bricks or substitutes along with you, then you could also use those underneath the head for support. And just in the first few moments here, really give yourself a little bit of time to arrive, settling into the idea that you're really committing yourself to this practice right now. Leaving anything that happened in your day previously at the door. And equally shutting out anything that you have yet to do. So if you're practicing here first thing in the morning, see if you can stop yourself from thinking about anything that's on your to-do list today. I know it's very tempting. Instead, focus your attention on something that is very easily palpable and it's in the present moment. Bring the attention to the breath. Focus on the movements and sensations of the breath, so that really deep expansion as we breathe in and that softening as we exhale. Of course, if you have an Ujjayi pranayama practice, this is a great time to sort of gently allow the breath to switch over. And when you're ready, we'll walk the hands in front of us. We'll take the hands over to the left side, maybe walking past the yoga mat. The right hand is on top of the left, and you press back to ground your right sitting bone into the heel, really stretching along the right side of the body as much as you can. Still thinking about breathing equally into both sides of your lungs, even though the left rib cage is being slightly compressed here. And gently walk the hands in the opposite direction. Plant the left hand on top of the right. Again, press your body weight back into the left sitting bone. Think about breathing into both sides of the ribs. Equally expanding the torso on the left and right side. Inhale, come back to center. We'll do a little bit of a flow here to warm up the body, the major joints and the spine. Bring your knees to hip distance. On an inhale, rise onto your knees as you lift the arms overhead. Press the hips forward. On an exhale, slip the hands towards the back of your yoga mat, round the forehead in towards the knees. And then reach your arms out and around in front of you. Let the spine round up towards the ceiling as you slowly let the hips come forward, bend the elbows into Cobra Pose. Press into the hands to lift your sitting bones up and back, all the way into an extended arm child's pose, Balasana, where we started. And we'll do that a few more times as you inhale, rise onto the knees, lift the arms. Exhale, slide the hands to the back of the mat, round the forehead. Reach the arms forward and around. Slide onto the hands as you unravel the spine to the front of the mat, finding Cobra Pose. And pressing down into the hands, let your sitting bones draw back into Child's Pose. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, rounding in. Roll the arms forward as you breathe in. Exhale, round the spine. Unravel. Find Cobra Pose, Bhujangasana. Lead the sitting bones back as you inhale. And exhale, Child's Pose, where we began. And we'll move through just 2 more rounds here as you inhale, lift up. Maybe moving a little bit more with your own breath here. And wherever you are, we'll make this our final round. So not rushing to move through it, but eventually we'll meet in our final Child's Pose, of course. From here, tucking under the toes. Planting your hands at the front of the mat and gently lifting the sitting bones up and back into 3-legged dog. Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Feel free to move a little bit here. Ease into the pose. Stretch out your toes, your feet, your legs. And then actively press the floor away with your index finger and thumb. Spin the inner elbows forward. Let the shoulders soften down the back body. Keep your eyes towards the middle of your yoga mat so that the ears are between your biceps. Step your feet together at the back of the mat. On an inhale, lift the right leg up and back. Point the toes for 3-legged dog. And then let your foot dangle behind you. Bend your right knee generously for split dog. Keep your shoulders parallel to the front of the mat. And let gravity open your right hip, gently dropping the foot behind you. On an exhale, draw the right knee forward into the chest, bringing the shoulders on top of the wrist, tiger's curl, press the floor away, and then step or shimmy the foot forward to the front of your yoga mat. Feel free to use your hands to help. Bring your back knee down, but keep the toes tucked under. Rise up into your low lunge, reach the fingers forward. On an exhale, slide your left hand across the chest, maybe follow it with your hands as you look back. And then inhale, bring the hands to touch at the front. Exhale, slide the right hand across the chest, reach it all the way back to the closed side of the twist. And inhale to reach the hands forward. Lift the arms up as you sink the hips. Exhale into Anjaneyasana, crescent lunge. And on your next exhale, take the hips back. Take your fingertips back with you. Maybe straighten the front leg, maybe lift the right toes, reaching the center of the chest forward for Ardha Hanumanasana half splits. Staying just a moment longer. Inhale to rebend your front knee, lift the back leg and reach the fingertips towards the ceiling into Alanasana, your high lunge. Exhale, take the hips back, reach your fingertips back, aim the front of your chest towards the front big toe. Maybe the front leg straightens if you like, but you can keep the knee bent if you prefer. Inhale, reach your fingertips forward to ground the back heel down. Then lift the arms and find your warrior 1.5 with the center of the chest aiming towards the front left corner of your yoga mat. Spin the pinky fingers in, press into the outer edge of the back leg and equally the front big toe. Generous bend on the front knee. Take the back hand to the back thigh as you exhale. Right fingertips reach back to reverse the warrior. Use the right hand to paint a huge circle, reach forward and all the way down towards the floor. Take your body weight into your back leg. Turn your left toes out. Now you can keep the hands on the floor. Maybe you want to do this unsupported. Bring your left sitting bone towards the back heel and let the heel lift off the ground. It's a toe balance here. Maybe the right toes lift, maybe the right leg is bent or straight. Hands can come in front of the chest if you feel super balanced. For your full version of Skandasana, of course, you could be higher up if that's more helpful to you. Let your mind settle. Let the breath relax into the pose. Let your body gradually adjust. And then we'll take this back into the front leg. So you can have the hands on the floor for support, maybe unsupported. You're going to shift your weight into the right leg, bend the knee, make sure the left heel is grounded and reach your fingertips forward and back into Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. Generous bend on the front knee. Again, separate your feet if you need to. Bring your front forearm onto the front thigh. Reach the left fingertips up and overhead and spin the pinky finger edge towards the ground. Press down through your bottom elbow. Spin the chest open by leaning your left shoulder back in space into full Parshvakonasana, extended side angle pose. If you can keep this lift of the chest and you're still easily breathing here, some of you might like to bring your bottom hand to a yoga brick or all the way to the floor. Final few moments here. Possibly lifting the eyes towards the sky. And then using the top hand, bringing it all the way down, slide along the long edge of the yoga mat to bring your body weight into the left leg. Maybe the right toes lift and the leg is straight. Maybe you can bring your left sitting bone towards the heel and lift the left foot off the ground. Not the entire foot, just the heel. Bring your left hand to the inside of the leg. Reach your right fingertips up and overhead to expand into a twist. So let the chest open. Let your right hand sort of be weighted down by gravity behind you to really lift and open right side of the body and the chest. Some of you might like to join me in a back bend here by bringing your right hand as far behind you as you possibly can, spinning the outer edge of your right foot to the floor, and then using your left hand and pressing your hips up towards the ceiling as you inhale into Wild Thing, Kamakkarasana. If you're sort of bumping into your furniture here like I am, then bring the left hand behind the head or let it dangle behind you. Soften the lower elbow and press a little bit higher if you can for the final few rounds of breath. On an exhale, slowly, slowly, wherever you are, bring the sitting bones towards the floor. Bend your right knee so the heel comes towards the opposite hip. Step the left foot either in front of the shin bone or all the way across the thigh. From here, moving towards our seated twist. As you inhale, reach the left fingertips up towards the ceiling. Spin that hand behind you for support. Reach the right fingertips up towards the ceiling and lengthen right side of the waist. Either you're going to wrap that arm around the top knee or hook it across your thigh. Now from here, you could bring that hand into a sort of half prayer position in front of the chest, or if you don't need this back hand for support, allow that hand to join you. And then pressing through the left hand, you might be able to spin the chest open a little bit more towards the left side of the mat. Maybe you're looking towards the back of your mat, really seeing something in the room, or closing the eyes and seeing if you can allow your attention to rest on the sensations of the spine for the final few rounds of breath here. Possibly staying exactly where you are, or deepening the twist with each exhale. On an inhale, releasing the grip of your front elbow, turning forward and all the way across to the right side. Plant the hands on the right side of the floor. Bow the forehead towards the ground. And inhale to come back up. Now straighten your right leg and keep turning until you end up at the back of your yoga mat. Plant the hands on the floor. Tuck under your right toes and lift up the left leg to the back of the room into three-legged dog. Release the foot behind you, let the knee open towards the ceiling for split dog. And like magic, we are on the second side of the sequence. Make sure that you keep your shoulders square to the back of the yoga mat. On an exhale, draw your left knee in towards the chest. Let the shoulders come on top of the wrists for tiger's curl. Step or shimmy the foot to the back. Bring the back knee down and rise into your low lunge with the hands down by your side. Reach the fingertips forward. As you exhale, slide the right hand across the chest. Maybe let your eyes travel back with you into that twist. Inhale, fingertips move to the front. Exhale, left hand slides along the chest into the closed side of the twist. Inhale, fingers reach forward. On an exhale, allowing the hips to descend into your crescent lunge, reaching the fingertips up and overhead into the back bend. On an exhale, taking the sitting bones all the way back, maybe lifting your front toes, possibly keeping the front knee bent or straighten the leg as you reach the hands behind you for a floating half splits on the second side. Inhale to rebend your front knee, lift the back leg, let your fingertips reach towards the ceiling and find your high lunge Alanasana. On an exhale, draw the sitting bones back, reach the fingertips for the front of the mat behind you. Maybe the center of your chest is aiming towards the front big toe, and you could have still the front knee bent or possibly straight if you like. Bend your front knee again here to spin the back heel down and lift the arms into your warrior 1.5. Adjust the feet if you need to. Center of the chest pointing towards the front right corner of the yoga mat, and the pinky fingers spin towards one another. Take your right hand to the back thigh as you exhale. Let the left fingertips reach towards the front of the mat into your reverse warrior. And then left fingertips paint a big, big circle around you. As you shift your body weight into the back leg, maybe your left toes lift, maybe the left leg is straight. You could have the hands on the floor for support. And eventually maybe right heel is lifting towards the sitting bone. Possibly the hands could come one at a time in front of the chest. So you're sort of challenging that toe balance. Letting crown of the head lift. Again, just finding a moment to breathe here. For the body to settle into the pose. A little bit of quiet, a little bit of balance. And then we shift all the way back to the other leg. So take your eyes forward. Maybe you can use the hands for support on the floor or unsupported. Bend your left knee, point the toes to the back of the yoga mat. Spin your right heel out, reach the arms forward and back. Warrior 2 as if nothing ever happened. And then bring your left forearm to your left thigh. Reach the right fingertips up and overhead towards the back of the mat. Press down through your bottom forearm. Really lift the chest and spin it open towards the ceiling. Let the right shoulder roll back. Maybe let the eyes drift up towards the sky. On an exhale, bring your front forearm to the front thigh. Reach your right fingertips up and overhead with the pinky finger edge spinning down into your extended side angle pose, Parsvakonasana. Possibly staying here, really focusing on pressing down through the bottom elbow, spinning the chest open and breathing into both lungs. If you can keep all of that going, feel free to lower your hand onto a brick or the floor. And then possibly, wherever you are, peeking up underneath your armpit to look at the ceiling. On an exhale, let the top hand travel across the long edge of the yoga mat to your back leg. Again, you could stay in a high version of Skandasana or lift the heel towards the sitting bone. Plant the right hand to the inside of the leg. Lift your left arm up towards the ceiling into the twist. Find that extension from the bottom hand all the way through to your left fingertips, really leaning the top hand back behind you to get that deep, deep stretch along the left side of the body. Again, some of you might like to take this into Wild Thing. So you're going to turn onto the outer edge of your back foot. Walk your left hand as far behind you as you can, and then pressing into both feet as you inhale, lift the hips, reach your right arm up and overhead. If you're bumping into furniture, just let the hand dangle behind you. Find a few moments here to breathe, to press the floor away. And when you're ready, slowly bend the knees to come all the way onto your sitting bones. Keep leading onto your left leg wherever you are so that you can just bend the knee and bring the foot to the opposite side of your hips. And then right foot could either step in front of the shin or all the way across the thigh. On an inhale here, lengthen up through right side of the waist, reach through the fingertips, plant the hand behind you, reach up through the left fingers. See if you can hook the elbow across the thigh. If that doesn't work, just wrap it around the knee instead. And then if you can, you bring your left hand in front of you as a sort of half prayer position. If you don't need the back hand, then it can join you. And from there, really pressing right hand into the left to roll the ribs into the twist. So left rib cage moves forward, right rib cage moves back. You can close the eyes, or you can really let the eyes travel towards what is the front of your yoga mat originally and see something in the front of the room. Using these final few rounds of breath to really either explore the twist as it is, or possibly with each exhale, deepening into the pose. And then slowly, slowly unwinding first, turning to the left edge of the mat. Bowing your forehead towards the floor, derotating the spine. Straighten your left leg along the mat, and then continue to turn yourself all the way around until you can tuck under the toes and step into a downward facing dog, facing the front of your mat again. Just give yourself a few moments here to find your alignment, to breathe into the pose. And then make your way into a child's pose. Let the knees gently come to the floor. Feel free to take them as wide or as close as you like. Let the forehead either rest on your yoga mat, or again you could bend the elbows. Let the head rest on your hands or fists. Give yourself a moment just to release any tension in the face, so you can roll the forehead from left to right side a few times. Maybe relaxing the lower jaw away from the top jaw. Softening the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Allowing the breath to come back to its natural rhythm. Letting go of any pranayama practices that you might be holding on to still. On an inhale, slowly walk the hands in towards yourself, round the spine to come up into a kneeling position. We're just here very briefly to set ourselves up for our yin practice. So if you do have your bricks, you want them somewhere along the middle of the mat so that you can easily reach them. And just before we get onto our backside, I briefly want to ask you to feel for your sacrum at the back body. So if you don't know where it is, it's a triangular bone that sits right at the bottom end of your spine and literally connects the spine into your hips. So you should be able to feel a really strong, big, solid bone at the bottom of the spine, and that is your sacrum. Sometimes in my regular classes I will joke with my students that the sacrum is right above your bum crack, and that, as lewd as it is actually true. So if that's helpful to you, then feel free to use that as a reference point. Now come onto your sitting bones, have the feet flat, the knees bent towards the ceiling. Come all the way onto your backside. Give your spine just a brief moment to adjust to this slightly different relationship to gravity. So have your feet as wide as your hips, or slightly wider if you prefer. And from here we are going to slip one or two, if you prefer, bricks on the lowest setting underneath the sacrum. So you can choose if you want to use 2 bricks. I'm personally going to stick with 1. And again, you want to give yourself a little bit of time to really adjust the brick so that it is definitely right underneath your sacrum, so that you feel really sturdy and supported. And of course, if you place one or both of your bricks underneath you and you immediately feel some kind of lower back pain or pinching, then feel free to remove the brick, and you can still do this entire part without it, so don't worry. From here, we'll slowly draw the left knee in towards the chest. You can either keep your hands down by the sides of the hips with the palms facing the ceiling, or if you prefer, you can interlace the hands just below the knee on your shin. Now you could keep your right leg bent, or possibly walk the foot away from you. If you like to straighten the leg, feel free to do that, but let the toes drop out to the side. And then see if you can just let the shoulders be heavy. Let gravity do some of the work for you. The beauty of these restorative back bends is always that actually over time we've sort of elevated the hips, and gradually as gravity starts to work its magic, we're sort of actually pulling the vertebrae away from each other. And we're also lengthening the front of the body here, opening the hip flexor of the right leg, allowing the muscles in the right quad to lengthen, and also stretching our left glute by pulling this knee in towards us. There's actually a lot happening, even though it feels like we're not working too hard, I hope. If you're working too hard, you're doing it wrong. And you might be wondering sort of what the connection of our yoga practice is towards the sort of more philosophical inspiration of Dhammasati, of course, are hindrances, as the Buddha describes them. And he actually specifically talks about 5 hindrances. The first being desire, or specifically desire for pleasure, which I think is easily relatable. I think all of us have a tendency to sort of give preference to things that we enjoy doing. And you might have noticed that in your yoga practice as well. We have, all of us, certain postures that we really love. We sort of lean into them. And actually what tends to happen is those, usually for most of us, those are the postures that we are already good at. They're things that we don't really need to work on. So we enjoy them because we can kind of show off. And the things that we have to work on, we try to shy away from. You know, I include myself in that. The reason I still have to go to yoga classes is because a lot of the time I have to get my teachers to force me to do things that I don't want to do. Slowly, when you're ready here, release the grip of your knee if you are still holding it. Slowly plant the foot to the floor. Bend your right knee and bring that foot all the way to the ground. Give yourself just a moment to rest in the center before we swap sides. Feel the difference from the left to the right side of the body. And then gently, when you're ready, draw the right knee in towards yourself. Interlace the fingers, but go one pinky finger over for the unusual interlace. Yogi's choice again, you could keep your left knee bent, or you could gradually walk the foot forward, maybe straighten the leg entirely and let the toes flop out to the side. If at any point you feel like you've gone too far, you can always trace your steps back to the original version of the pose. So the second hindrance that the Buddha talks about is, of course, hatred and ill will, which again is a fairly obvious thing that might stand in our way if we are sort of holding on to grudges and negative feelings towards other people. Actually, most of us have experience that impacts us more than those people, especially if we never tell those people, which certainly in the Western world, a lot of us just hold these things in. We bottle them up. We never really talk about them, and then they just eat us up from the inside out. And thirdly, he mentions restlessness and worry. And I think yin practice is a particularly interesting place to explore restlessness. So if you get into a yin posture and you're constantly fidgeting and moving around, you're actually not really experiencing the pose as it should be. You're not really allowing yourself to settle in, to sort of experience the quiet and the calm and what is left of yourself when you remove all other distractions. Because that's who you really are. It's not the sort of external things that you distract yourself with or keep yourself busy with. It's what's left when that stuff goes away. Gently this time, release your knee, but keep it in towards yourself. Plant the hands with the palms down either side of your hips. Bring your left knee in towards yourself. And then just for a brief moment, we'll straighten the legs up towards the ceiling. You can keep the knees bent here or let the legs become straight. We're in a sort of supported shoulder stand here, a very gentle shoulder stand, I should say. And you can relax the feet. When you're ready, slowly bend one knee at a time, bringing the feet slowly, gently back to the floor. Feet hip distance when you arrive. Lift the hips just gently to remove your brick. Move the bricks to one side so they're out of your way. And then draw the knees in towards the chest. Hug them towards yourself for a moment. Give yourself a counter pose to that back bend. So lift your head towards the knees, shoulders coming off the ground. And then relax the shoulders and head back down. Release your arms, plant the feet again hip distance on the floor. This time draw the left knee in towards yourself and see if you can allow the knee to move out to the side as you bring the ankle just below your right knee, and then flex your left toes to the shin. You could stay here, planting the hands on top of your thighs and pressing the thighs away from you. For some of you, maybe you're able to let your right knee lift towards you. And if the knee comes in close enough, you might be able to slide your left hand between the legs, the right hand around the outside, and catch hold of the back of the thigh, or possibly all the way the front of your shin bone. And gradually over time, as the right knee moves closer, you press the left knee away from you. And of course, the fourth hindrance, I should say, has very sort of almost feels personal to me, like a personal attack if I'm completely honest, because it's laziness. And I think most of us have a little bit of that in us. Maybe in the Western world, most of us need to slow down rather than speed up, but I'm definitely one of those people that could spend their entire day in bed if you would let me, if I didn't have things to do and students to see. And of course, very evidently, not doing anything can also be too much. So we always try to work with moderation. And then finally, there's doubt. So if we spend a lot of time doubting ourselves, doubting maybe the process of yoga or mindfulness, we actually never really are able to achieve anything. And so sometimes really the idea of sticking with one thing can be worrying. We don't know if we're on the right path, and quite honestly, I don't think we will ever find out. When you're ready from here, release the grip of your hands. Keep the legs exactly as they are. Take your arms out to the side, either in one straight line or cactus arms. And then plant your right foot to the floor. Let your left foot gradually move over to the right side of the mat. You can keep the legs in this position or bring your right hand on top of the left knee to give it a little bit of weight towards the floor, coming into twisted root. Maybe your eyes would like to travel over to your left elbow, twisting the neck in the opposite direction to the spine. And allowing yourself to soften down. When you're ready on an inhale, pressing into the backs of your arms to lift the knees and unravel the legs. For a moment, hug the knees towards yourself, have a little rock side to side. And then plant the feet back on the floor so that we can swap over for the second side. So again, we'll have this time the left foot on the ground. We'll cross the right ankle just below the left knee and flex the right toes towards the shin to protect the knee joint. And again, option one is to stay here. You could even bring the hands onto the thighs and press them away from you. If you're going further, then lift the left knee in towards you first. See what your body allows for in terms of mobility before you reach your left arm around and the right hand through, possibly catching the back of the thigh or all the way to the front of the shin. And if you can, think about the unusual interlace here. Whichever option you choose, you want the shoulders and head to be fully on the floor. And gradually, as left knee comes closer, right knee moves further away. You might be thinking sort of, well, what is it worth really putting all this effort into removing these hindrances in our lives? I found ways of working around them and I'm sort of quite all right with how things are. And I always say the sort of nicest analogy for why we might want to remove them is actually sort of in traditional forestry and agriculture that is still practiced by certain tribes who live in very close proximity to nature. They often actually clear parts of the forest so that they can grow new crops, because the burned down parts of the trees provide really good fertile for the ground. And in a way, removing these hindrances from our mind is very similar. We are removing the hindrances so that we can actually create fertile ground for better things to flourish in our mind, in our life. So some of the things that tend to replace those hindrances, the Buddha says, are the sort of qualities of faith, of effort, of mindfulness, concentration and wisdom, which I think are things that we would all like to cultivate more of. But of course, if our mind is sort of clogged up with negative things, it's kind of difficult to let these things grow and rise to the surface. Gently, when you're ready, release the grip of your hands again. Let the left foot come to the floor first. Take your arms out to the side. Choose a position that works, maybe cactus arms. And then start by letting the right foot move towards the ground on the left edge of the mat. If you're going a little bit deeper, the left hand can come to the top of the right knee to give it a little bit of weight so that you are coming into twisted root. And ideally, whatever you choose to do, you want your right shoulder to stay on the floor, possibly taking your eyes over to the right side for a few moments of silence here to let the body settle into the mat. On an inhale, again, unravel the legs, lift the head, bring the knees into the center and hug them in towards yourself. Have a little rock from side to side to massage the back of the body. Let your right arm come all the way up and overhead to the space behind you. Roll over to the right side of the mat. Use your left arm to support you there. And take just a few rounds of breath here. Keeping the eyes closed, when you're ready, press into your left arm to slowly find your way into a comfortable seated position. Bring the palms to touch in front of your chest. Bow the forehead towards the fingertips. Use this final moment to give yourself thanks for showing up to your practice. Starting to cultivate that fertile ground for your more positive qualities to grow. And then finally, if you would like to, plant a sankalpa, a good intention that guides this sort of focused energy that you have created here towards something in your off the mat life. The light in me recognizes the light in you. Namaste, yogi. And of course, as always, thank you so much for joining me on these sort of 4 class explorations. If you like the video, do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends. Ask me any questions in the comment section down below. Also, always love to hear your feedback to the classes. And if you would like to find me anywhere else online in the meantime, that information is in the video description. And I hope to see you back on your yoga mat very soon, yogi. Thank you so much for joining me.